cops and lawyers, guns and money. Dad, get me out of this. Ha!
Hey everybody, welcome to Too Much CGI, the show where we love to talk about classic pop culture and, whatever the hell else pops into our minds. My name is Bill, and here as always, Mr. Scott.
Bill, how you doing?
My kid always called you Mr. Scott. You get that a lot,
Yeah.
Mr. Scott?
Oh, my kids call you Mr. Bill.
Yeah, what happened to Mr., like using their last names? You never hear that anymore. Kids call adults by first names now.
Yeah, I remember for a hot minute there, we were trying to do like Uncle Bill and Uncle Scott, and it just never took.
Never took. Nah, they were like, what? You don't call anybody uncle? What's that bullshit? Like, what you learned in school? That's exactly how it's supposed to be.
I remember as a kid, I called everybody uncle. Godparents, parents, friends. You called everybody uncle.
Yeah, and you got an ass whooping it if you didn't do it. They'd be like, you aren't doing the right thing. Oh, God, it was so scary going around relatives.
Show some goddamn respect, you punk kid.
Don't shame us in front of my sister's fiance, uncle, son. All right, I won't, Dad. Well, I did it. I came back from my vacation. I came back from Mexico in one piece.
How did it go?
I'm still processing it.
Oh, my God. This was not a relaxing, recharging.
Nope. I think I couldn't be further from that. You want to hear about my trip?
I want to hear more about this, yes.
All right, I'll tell you about it. So we ended the last show, and I was all excited. I'm like, yeah, let's go. What could go wrong? I got a buddy down there. He speaks the language, and I'm going to see where he lives and sort of get to know Mexico because I'm a gringo. I don't know shit. The only thing I know about Mexico is what I saw in movies growing up. It's shameful. But I'm not a very, well-traveled person outside of the United States. So, no problem. I know how to take a plane pretty much anywhere. Take a plane down. I land in Mexico City. We fly over Mexico City. And I'm just like, wow, this is amazing. It's probably the biggest city I've ever seen in the air that I can remember. And I'm just like, I can't wait to land. I have no idea what I'm going to see here. And my friend, he said, don't worry, everybody speaks English there. It's fine. So I feel good. So I land and I have this great little Google Translate app. It's just something you download from the Google store. You type in what you want to say in another language, in Spanish in this case, and you hit go and it gives it the words, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm set. I'm good. I get there. I'm looking for my buddy. He's picking me up. I'm like, where the fuck is he? I check my phone. Hey, bro, I got a problem. I'm not going to be there to pick you up. I tweaked my back. If we're going to have any fun this week, I got to heal. So I'm just going to let you take the bus here.
How far of a bus trip are we talking?
Turned out to be a 5-hour bus trip
Holy shit.
out to the west of Mexico City through some of the most amazing and scary shit I've ever fucking seen in my life. And I'm probably still trying to process what I saw.
Wow.
Yeah. So where I thought I was going to be kind of in an area that felt like where I was when I went to Cancun, they take you out of Cancun, they drive you around. You're like, yeah, I feel totally fine. This looked a lot more like Romancing the Stone. Remember that movie?
Yes, I do.
So I'm heading out to Coatepec area, Jalapa. This is the region where if you keep on going, you do get into that area where they shot Romancing the Stone. So we finally get there, traveled all day. And the food is amazing. Everything is amazing. Finally starting to settle down. I rented an Airbnb and I said to my friend, hey, it's time. I want to go. I'm getting older. I'm really exhausted. And I could see the look in his eyes like, man, I had plans for you. We were going to go drinking all night. We were going to be out all night. It's like, nope, that isn't going to happen. So he finally takes me to my place and it's an Airbnb. It's a beautiful Airbnb. I'll put a picture of it on Twitter. It looks like a Smurf house, right? It's totally made of cement and these really strange shapes. It looks like an acid dream.
Oh my God.
It looks like it took some mushrooms. So I love this place. And this is what I wanted. I did want this place. The woman shows up, lets me in. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It's got no TV. It's got no microwave. It's got no air conditioning. These are things that I'm like, yeah, no big deal. I'm out in Mexico. It should be fine. But I didn't realize it was in the middle of fucking nowhere, right? So it's down this street. It's a rock street that you need a tank really to get down. And as I go in and I learn how to use the door, I'm like, this door, man, you can't keep anybody out of this door. The fucking gate to lock you in is almost like the shape of a ladder. So somebody could climb right over the gate and get onto the other side and then walk up these stairs and go to my front door. And I'm completely vulnerable. I don't have a gun. I don't have a knife. I have nothing. all night I see people walking up and down this street. So I text her, the woman who owns the hotel, the woman who owns the home, the Airbnb. I say, you ever have any trouble here? Oh, no trouble. You ever have any Americans here?
Yeah.
Any trouble? No trouble. Okay. So I'm starting to settle down. So right away, I'm already in an unsafe area.
You're jumpy. I can tell you're jumpy just telling this story.
You're bringing back trauma. You, all right. I mean, all right. So here, I'll tell you another part of this story. So my friends do show up, right? These are people. One of them is somebody I've known for a long time, and he brought his friends, and I became friendly with them again. So I'm the only one there who doesn't speak Spanish, right? So now there's a good like 5 or 6 people, and they're all talking, and I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. Like, it was so weird to have zero clue what's going on for 5 days. But that's pretty much what it was like when these guys were around. So they say, we're going to go into the canyon. We're going to go take you whitewater rafting. And I said, yeah, that's something I've always wanted to do. Let's do it. All right. So this is where it starts to get close to where they filmed Romancing the Stone. So we get into this bus. Again, I don't know what's going on. I'm just holding on, praying we are not getting kidnapped. But it was like, I had no clue. Nobody could talk to me. I couldn't talk to them. Anytime I tried to take this translator to somebody, I would hold it up and they'd read it and they'd look at me like, what the fuck does that say? Like, I think the thing was pranking me. I think the Google Translator was trying to fuck me up. So this thing was absolutely useless. So I was just going along for the ride and just hoping the kindness of strangers would help me find what I was looking for when I needed to find something.
Let me ask a question here. At this point, is your whitewater rafting trip something that's being put on by like a whitewater tour guide, or is this one of your buddy's friends owns a raft and you're going to jump in the river?
More the latter. All right. So the way everything seemed to work where I was, everybody had a job, whether it was a legit job, everybody had it. So did it look like a real rafting outfit? Yes. Did it look like it was made for me? No. So everybody there was like trained on how to do this river. I've heard a lot of stories about this town too. This town was like, it had some commercial company try to come in from Russia, and they attacked the people out like with weapons. So this is the area I'm in. So I'm trying to be real careful.
They're really trusting of the white man coming in to spend the weekend. Yeah. Good Lord.
I hate business. I hate capitalism. Let's get out in the water. Yeah. I'm a gringo. Yeah, I had to be real careful. So we get out in the water, dude. And when I tell you that this is the best part of the trip, the whitewater rafting was so much fun, except the first rapid, I look to the left. All of a sudden, my buddy comes flying at me into the water, right into the drink. Bloop. Right into the drink. My head hits the rock. This is how we start. And my mouth is wide open. I take a giant gulp of the water. Have you heard of Montezuma's Revenge?
Oh, yeah.
That's all I can think about now going down this whitewater rafting path. Now, I dodged it. I didn't get sick. I'm very lucky.
That's good.
That was the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life, because we were really deep into this canyon. And when you look up, like, I expected to see pterodactyls. I thought I was in Jurassic Park. It was some of the most beautiful shit I've ever seen. And there's no way to describe it. I'm still trying to process this too. But everywhere in Mexico, it's these little towns, and they all seem to live differently than each other. It really was, at the end of the day, safe. They aren't exactly, happy I'm there, but they're not unhappy I'm there. They're just keeping to themselves. And it really is such a culture shock.
Yeah.
That's really what I'm trying to digest. Like, what did I really experience? Because it's so different than anything. Now, unless you go traveling, places like this often. It's so different than anything you've ever seen. It's not Disney World, man.
So once your guard was down and you were able to relax a little bit, was this a recharging trip like you were hoping to get out in LA? Were you getting creative? You come back with some ideas for the show? What do you bring back for us, Bill?
No, I brought back trauma. I was doing the whole thing. My poor wife, I'm like, I can't even tell you what I'm thinking right now because I still can't process it. Everything was just too strange for me. Yeah, and the crazy thing is doing that alone. People could do that, like, no problem. Not me. Shit. I'll never do that again. Go to a foreign country where I don't speak the language without at least a partner.
Well, at least you brought back your trauma for our entertainment. So I thank you for that.
No, I haven't told you everything, but I've told you enough for now. I'll tell you about the guy that tried to stop me in the airport. I'll tell you about the airport hotel that was impossible to find because there was not a sign. I can keep going.
Let's save that for another day. How about anything else going on? Not trauma related.
I saw a bug with glowing eyes coming at me. I could not get rid of it. It would just chase me. I saw a sink with a penis nozzle. I mean, I could tell you things.
Were you on mushrooms on this trip?
You would think.
It sounds it.
You would think. Oh, my God. I had nothing.
All right.
Telling you, it all feels like a fever dream. Hey, everybody, if you would be so kind as to remember, please recommend our show anytime you can. If you can, leave us a review on Spotify or iTunes. You can actually go to ratethispodcast.com/toomuchcgi, and it'll give you all kinds of options to rate it easily for us. That really helps us because it allows us to be seen by other people who are using those services. Algorithms rule our world. If you want to communicate with us, you can always go to Too Much CGI on Twitter, or you can go to toomuchcgi.com. You can send us an email, and you can also download our stuff there. Well, that's that, Scott. I was able to stay out of international jail, but I remember you saying at the end, be careful. And I was like, that'll be fine.
Well, I also said I could never do a trip like that without knowing somebody that was a local. We were talking about the benefits of traveling like a local rather than traveling like a tourist, and how going to a place like that with a language barrier, and hey, it's great, you know a buddy, and then you go there and your buddy fucking strands you. That's great.
Yeah, only me.
Only you. That is very, very Bill. That's a very Bill vacation you had yourself there.
I like a good adventure, but I think that was a little bit too much. I'm getting to the age where I didn't want to have to figure that out. Like, I was dreading how to figure that out. And I told you, my friend was so disappointed in me. He would never tell me, but I could tell. He was like, what happened? Where's the guy I used to hang out with? And this time I was the guy who showed up, and I'm totally different. You ever seen it's like when your older friend suddenly shows up and he's changed, and you're like, wow, that Fred's an asshole now. Like, now he's totally old and fucking, he forgets how to live. I hit that switch and I didn't even know it. And then my friend was able to point that out to me very clearly without even telling me. I just saw the sadness in his eyes that I was not the party friend anymore.
Well, friend, you delivered that message to me 10 years ago when I had kids, and you were like, man, you changed. You changed. We used to go out drinking all the time. We used to party. We used to smoke cigars till dawn. And you don't do anything like that anymore. So, yeah, I know what that's like, Bill. I know what that's like. And you're 5 years older than me, and you gave that to me 10 years ago.
Oh, I don't believe I did that. I don't believe I did that.
Maybe not in so many words, but I saw the look. I know the look you're talking about.
I don't think I gave you the look because I think I knew exactly how you felt. I think it was more of like sympathy.
Welcome to the club.
Wasn't the look of, yeah. So one of the things that I was thinking about while I was on the plane, right? There's a lot of cool stuff that's come out, and, I'm downloading everything to try to watch on these planes. And when I say I'm downloading videos, I'm downloading things from streaming, I'm downloading articles. I want to get caught up on my reading. I had nothing but time in the air. So I was going through a bunch of things, and I was noticing that they were related to the movies that we like, but they were talking about spoilers. I guess there's a lot of spoilers going on right now, or things that are spoiler worthy. And I was wondering, are they getting better? And by they, I mean media and publishers who are just putting out blogs. Are they getting better at not spoiling this stuff for us? And here's what I mean. It used to be hard to kind of go around the internet and avoid those Game of Thrones spoilers because somebody was going to stick it in your face.
Yeah.
I feel like nowadays, at least in my experience, when I go and I look at my usual media that I prefer, nobody's spoiling it for me. They're keeping secrets. Do you think that's true?
To an extent. And the reason I say to an extent, some of the biggest spoilers in cinematic history, recent cinematic history, has all come out of the toy companies. It's come out of Lego. It's come out of like McFarlane action figures. Like, you can always see these sets, and especially this is true for Marvel movies and Star Wars movies and the big properties that Lego owns. They preview their movie sets long before the movie comes out. So you can read between the lines and figure out what's going to happen in the movie because they have the backstory. The other part of it, though, there's times. So I'll give you an example. Disney Plus shows. I'll use The Mandalorian for an example. Mandalorian drops Wednesday morning, basically, I believe, pretty damn close to midnight the night before. It's on Wednesday morning. I don't watch it before I go to work. I go to work, maybe on my lunch break, I'll tune in, I'll look at some YouTube. We talked about the breakdown shows that they do on Screen Crush and New Rock Stars and channels like that. And there's times on Wednesdays where I cannot watch anything on my YouTube feed until I go home and watch the episode. or those 187 Easter eggs are going to spoil the whole goddamn thing for me. So to a point, yes. To another point, it's maybe worse than ever, depending upon what you're watching.
That was exactly where I got the thought, because I had a batch of videos saved up, YouTube videos, and I was like, oh, I know there's going to be a spoiler in here, and I didn't see it. And that's where I thought, oh, cool.
Oh,
People are
okay.
kind of getting the hang of how media now, I mean, the movies that we love, they're all about things that if you told somebody, it would spoil the movie, right? It's not
Yeah.
about spoilers is a term for what? Actively spoiling a movie. But so many things have these like trick endings now that the internet it's too dangerous. Things leak so fucking easily.
Yeah.
So seeing other people who love these movies playing ball and not, putting it in the fucking titles of these articles, and I'm happy to see it, because I remember it used to be, I can't read anything about the new Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to know anything, but it was impossible to avoid the fact that there was going to be a couple extra Spider-Man in that Far From Home movie.
Yeah.
But since Spider-Man, I haven't seen I've not fallen for a spoiler yet.
That's good.
Maybe it's just me.
No, I feel like they're doing a better job of not putting it in the title, like you said. Like, it's not as overt out there. You almost have to actively click on the story or the video to see the spoiler. They're not just throwing it out in front of your face. But you mentioned Spider-Man. The fact that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield were in that last Spider-Man movie, everybody knew that. That was the biggest spoiler. They ruined the whole thing.
It sort of did. For me, unfortunately, that whole movie was kind of the commercial. And the part of the movie that wasn't the commercial was the rumor.
And it was pretty much a confirmed.
Right. It was a confirmed rumor. And when you go to watch the movie, it's completely the way that you imagined it. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
no.
This is a fuck-uppery on my part, because at the end of the last show, I said, I'll have no problem getting this episode out on time. It should be fine. But that was after I got stuck at the airport coming home and had to sleep over an extra day in Miami because American Airlines decided they'd delete my flight, my connecting flight. So I'm like, okay, no problem. I'll get this done. I got all Sunday to do it. I'm not going to tell Scott. I'm not going to worry him. I'm going to get my half done. The show's going to launch. Everything will be fine. So I get home. I'm so burned out, just burned out. Saturday, the time I do come home, I'm just dead to the world. Nothing's making sense. I'm confused and disoriented. I don't even know what planet I'm on. I forget where I was. I'm just, I need to decompress. So I did nothing on Saturday. Sunday still felt a little shaky. I'm not going to lie. So I slept in a little bit. I said, it's okay. I got the rest of the day to edit the podcast. I look at my phone. I see, hey, can we come over for a shoot tomorrow? All right, because I do photography on the side. Oh, yeah, tomorrow's Monday. I'll have the podcast out. Here, this person had sent that on Saturday, and I just read it on Sunday thinking it came in that day. So the person shows up at about 3 p.m. and says, I'm here for the photo shoot, drove 2 hours. Oh,
shit.
no problem. As long as I do a couple hours of the photo shoot, I'll still be able to get the podcast done. 9 o'clock p.m. No problem. I know I go to bed at 10, and I know this will take me about 4 hours. I'll stay up a little late. I'll drink a cup of coffee. It's been a while since I've done an all-nighter. 1:30, I still have about an hour and a half of the show to go. Okay, I'm running a little behind schedule today. I know it's going to take me about an hour and a half more to edit. Within seconds, I was just like, my eyes were burning, and my head went back, and I fell asleep in my chair editing. And I had to write you at 1:30, and you probably saw the text.
I got it. Well, here's the thing. I got a text message from you on Saturday morning that said, hey, I'm in Philly now getting my bag. And I was like, you were supposed to get in at midnight last night. Like, I didn't know. Maybe your bag got lost. I thought maybe that was going to be one of your stories. No. And then I get a text message at it was 1:14 this morning. Hey, show's not going to be uploaded. I fucked that up. Oh, well. And I was like, 1:15 in the morning. That's not you.
Nope. So I apologize, everybody. I misjudged. Man, I don't have that energy anymore to do all that. Wow. That was a real test that I failed miserably.
I love that it was midnight and you had an hour and a half to go for a 1 hour show, but that is how this show works.
I think that's how all content is now. It's like crank it out to the very last second. We're no different. We're professionals.
But it did go out because to your credit, I got a text from you at 11:30 that said uploading now. So we did get it out by Monday morning, just not 6 a.m. on Monday morning, but Monday morning nonetheless.
Yeah, only 6 hours behind schedule.
Whatever. You were living 2 hours behind schedule for the past week.
That's true. Man, I had no idea what time it was at all when I was out there.
You couldn't tell time? You couldn't speak the language? Google Translate's fucking lying to you.
Half the time I was lucky to get internet. Everybody's using WhatsApp. I've never used WhatsApp before.
No.
So now I'm using WhatsApp. And my buddy's like, oh, send me your live location. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I don't even know what that is. So I don't even have like a good signal. So how the fuck is this thing going to connect? The whole thing was confusing and scary.
You're back.
But I'm back. I'm never leaving again. It's one of those things. It's like, it's an adventure that I'll never forget, but it's an adventure that I'll never do again.
Right on, man.
And I hope my friend isn't listening because he's like, oh, I can't wait to see you again when you come back. I'm like, yeah. Can't wait to see you in America. So I got another bit of little ball busting. Tim Yoke likes to write us. I talked about him before. He had a good one he sent in because he noticed that the show was running late. No episode this week. Oh, and Weird Al's UHF radio station? I caught it. Fuck uppery.
Yeah, I fucked that up. I did fuck that up. I'll own it. I did say he put a talk show on his radio station. It was clearly a UHF station. It's the name of the fucking movie.
Tim is the fuck uppery patrol. He's gotten you before. He likes to get you on King of the Hill stuff.
I'm not even that big of a King of the Hill fan.
Hey, you keep fucking it up. You know, this podcast is all about accuracy. You don't have to be a fan. You got to get it right.
I know. Hey, I got an email from a friend of ours, a fellow friend. I think maybe I want to tell a little bit of a backstory about how Bill and I met. All right, so once upon a time, Bill and I worked for a retail store, retail and wholesale, that specialized in NASCAR racing and NASCAR collectibles. To anyone that knows us in this present day would never guess that the two of us that don't give two shits about racing or cars would have had anything to do with NASCAR anything.
Indeed.
I'm still a little surprised it happened myself, to be quite honest.
Those were dark days, my friend. Yeah, I just moved into town and I was like, I know what I want to do. And I found the one company that allowed me to do it, albeit very poorly. I mean, they paid me poorly. So I didn't work very hard for little pay. Yeah, that wasn't a very rewarding job at all for me.
No.
But I learned a shit ton about NASCAR, which I didn't care about in the least.
I often joke that if I had gone into that job knowing or liking or even caring the littlest bit about NASCAR, that I would have blown my brains out because we were inundated with it. We learned everything we possibly could about NASCAR. Having gone in, coming from an urban school setting, my friends and I didn't have anything against NASCAR, but I sure as shit wasn't sitting down and watching a race on a Sunday. It was more of a football, basketball, baseball crowd. You know, ball and stick sports. I didn't give a shit about racing cars. It made no sense to me. But there I was running a retail store, and you ran my website for me. And we made some friends along the way. We met some interesting characters along the way. This place is no longer in existence, which, take that for what it's worth. But I've heard from our friend Dan that we met while we worked at this establishment. Remember Dan?
Our mutual brother, Dan?
Yes, brother Dan.
I bet you I know what you're going to say because I think he texted me the same thing he texted you. I'll bet you.
I'm going to consider this text to be part of Mailbag.
Mail, motherfucker!
And he says, the biggest day of racing in the world is this Sunday. Monaco Grand Prix, Indy 500, Coke 600. Do a podcast of racing or car-related movie.
Nope.
He sent it to me, brother. I deleted it so fucking fast I didn't even see it.
Well, here was my reply. That would be a very short list. Talladega Nights and Days of Thunder, and I'm out. I have no other movies to talk about.
Yeah, were there any other racing movies?
Well, Dan goes on to list some more. He says Driven, Driving Force, Iron Man 2, Tony Stark hijacks his own car, the Netflix series about F1, Ford versus Ferrari, Racing Wives. Bill, I've heard of Ford versus Ferrari. Have you heard of any of these other things I just said?
Not a single one.
My reply was, Iron Man 2 was awful. And I haven't heard a single thing that you mentioned in the other listing.
Oh, I heard him say Iron Man 2. I struck that right away because that's not a racing movie. That just has a race car scene. I mean, that's just...
Yeah. The intro starts off at the Monaco Grand Prix, and that's where Whiplash comes in and whips his car into two pieces.
Yeah, that's Dan grasping for straws right there, trying to get a point on the board.
That's almost Dan agreeing that, yeah, there's no good racing movies, but you'll like this because it's a superhero movie. So here you go.
Yeah.
He then goes on when he realizes that all these racing movies are stinkers. Oh, I have to say, I have heard of Driven. Sylvester Stallone was a Formula One racer in Driven, but it was not great. Car movies, you have Fast and Furious franchise and Gone in 60 Seconds. I said, well, I've already shared my thoughts on Fast and Furious, and why we're still making them, I have no idea. And Gone in 60 Seconds was okay for its time. And then I said, I'll treat this as an email because it's not enough for a main segment. To which he gave a thumbs down.
I'll give him some credit there. He came up with some I hadn't thought of. Gone in 60 Seconds. How the fuck did I forget that one? That was a big movie when that came out.
Yeah, that was a real big movie. So while working at this racing store, we had televisions in the showroom. And for the first 3 or 4 years I worked there, I worked at this place for 7 years. I have a high tolerance for bullshit. For the first 4 years, I'd say we didn't have cable in the showroom. So what we watched were DVDs of racing highlights. And I can tell you every single line from every single race from the 2001 to the 2005 Daytona 500.
Wow.
They were dark days, man. You said it. You said it the best. I cannot say it any better than that.
I remember meeting you too because I came from Philly, and now, we've mentioned before that we're in a town called Berks County. It's a lot more rural than I'm used to. So when I moved here, this was the first job I got. And now I'm working in a big place full of people that love racing. And I'm thinking racing must be the biggest thing in the world out here, because it was. And I felt exactly like I felt in Mexico, walking around with people and I couldn't speak the language. And I could not wrap my head around the obsession with these guys turning left. And I understand racing. I played Daytona USA in the arcade, got real good at drafting and drifting. I know how to do manual. I get it. I get the strategies. I get it. I get how the teams work. I get everything from how they buy shit to try out different things with their cars. Yeah. Okay. It's fine. It's interesting, but it's not that interesting. Formula One, way more interesting because there's a lot of chance for death and destruction. Sure, there's some death and destruction in NASCAR, but Baja racing, when you got that one guy on the right side, what's that called? Rally racing, left in 2 feet, go right. Like if he fucks up, somebody goes right off the cliff. Like that's fun. I like that. I like some of that shit. But NASCAR, I just could not understand why everybody was so excited. And then when I met you, I'm like, this guy's cool shit, but he's one of them NASCAR guys. We're never going to get along. And then you're like, oh, dude, I hate NASCAR. I was like, oh, we're the same.
Well, Brother Dan does love NASCAR. Yeah. Brother Dan, probably growing up, one of his dreams was to work at that location. And damned if he didn't live out that dream. One man's dream is another man's nightmare. Maybe we'll meet Brother Dan one of these days. He's a character.
He sure is. Hey, one more thing I wanted to bring up. Something I was getting into on the plane. I really wanted your opinion on this. Star Wars Visions. What do you think of it?
Some are great. Some are eh. Did you watch season 1 or season 2?
Oh, I think I just watched the newest one because it was the one that was being highlighted on Disney Plus. I didn't quite realize it was a 1 or 2 thing.
Season 2 just came out maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. Season 1 was better, I felt. So for Visions, Disney invited some of the best anime art houses. And I'm not a big anime guy. I just don't know a lot about them. But they contacted some of these big names in anime to kind of come out and play in the Star Wars universe. None of these stories are canon. They're not connected to the rest of the Star Wars world. They could kind of do whatever they wanted. And some places did some really cool shit. There was this one, it was very much like a Kurosawa type samurai, but the samurai was like a Sith. Just real cool shit. Some of it was real like bubblegum poppy, like some anime stuff is, but each art house did everything in its own style. And it could really get creative stories out there that don't have to connect to everything else. So it could be, like we talked about before, playing in the Star Wars universe, playing in that world, but not having to connect to everything else.
It was sort of like Disney's version of MCU's What If. What if this happened?
That's a great way of looking at it.
Except I liked What If, but I didn't like this.
You did. Okay.
Not really.
Right.
No. Since I'm a little confused, I just thought there was one season. So the first episode I liked. It was a black and white animation. Yeah, I think this is the one you were talking about because the guy turned out to be, a Sith, and it was very Shogun oriented, right? Because we know that Star Wars was very inspired by that. So I wasn't that. You're looking at me like maybe I'm looking at the wrong season, but
no.
way.
I'm thinking that you watched season 1. I think you probably clicked on the Visions thing. It saw you didn't watch any of the Visions and started you at season 1, episode 1, because I think that was one of the very first ones. I thought that was a great story.
I thought it was okay. When I see these artists like adding like fake film grain and things like that, I just think it gets a little hokey to me.
Okay.
So there was parts of it where I was like, this is killer. But then there was parts where I was like, oh, take it or leave it. It was an interesting idea. And then I was like, well, let's see what the next one is. And then they just kept getting weirder and more away from any Star Wars at all, except for sound effects and characters. And then there was one, and you said anime, and I'm out with anime. I mean, as soon as I see Speed Racer, like I'm out. I'm fucking out. And this one was like a rock band, and they were playing like real rock music. Oh, I hated it. Can't stand when they make things too real.
I was going to ask you about the rock band. The rock band wanted to play the Boon to Eve pod racing championship. It all comes back to racing. Here's your racing story, Dan.
Man, Dan's got us.
It all comes back to the Boon to Eve pod racing event, and this band, this rock band, wanted to get the gig. And it was some of the corniest. It's probably the corniest of the stories of season 1. I'll say that.
Surprised you didn't mention episode 1 of Star Wars, Dan.
Yeah, it's a big racing movie, Dan. Episode 1.
Dan, I always think about those prequels and I go, man, they had so much potential. They had so much they could have done. Why did this turn out so bad? And then I think the same thing about these last 3 Skywalker movies. But they had so many brilliant minds. How did they turn out so bad? But that's another thing. Anyway, going back to the Visions thing, the thing that I was feeling at the end, and I couldn't watch all of them. First of all, was that season 1 or 2? Now that you know exactly what I'm talking about.
It sounds like you were watching. That was season 1 with the rock band and with the Shogun. That was very much season 1.
Okay, because I punched out after a while. It was just too. It was just way too much. I almost said hentai. No, it's not hentai. It's just way too much.
Wait now. Just tentacle porn.
They got enough monsters in Star Wars to pull that off, I guess. But it was just way too much of that. And it made me want to rather see true Star Wars stories with good animation. Yeah. Tell me, I'm dying to see Luke Skywalker stories. Don't give me things that aren't part of the canon. Give me something that is part of canon.
I'm ready to see things that aren't Luke Skywalker or Skywalker related. I'm ready to move on from that. Did you see the episode with the twins?
Yeah. And it was interesting, but it was like not Star Wars. I don't know. I didn't care. Yeah. Did you like it?
I did like that one. I like that one. I like the Shogun one. I didn't care for the one with the band. I didn't care for that one so much.
There was one where they made the kid into like Astro Boy, and he was a little robot.
I was going to say there was an Astro Boy. Yeah, there was a bunch of droid focused, and I didn't care for them so much.
Nope.
Nope.
Nope. Nope. Nope. Nope.
Nope. Nope.
All right.
Nope.
Well, I was curious what you thought about it because we never talked about it, and right away I was like, oh no. This is a kid's Star Wars thing. Like Scott was saying, we need more things for kids. And I said, well, here you go. Now you got one. You got one for little kids. And as I was watching, I was like, okay, this is anime and it's for,
it's not
young
necessarily
adults.
For kids. No. Yeah. More young adults. I will say though, I didn't probably bring it up on the show because I don't want to be that Star Wars troll. I watched it. It was what it was. I enjoyed some of it. I forgot about the rest of it. The world keeps turning. I'll gotta come on here and shit on everything like people seem to do that are in the Star Wars fan base, quote unquote.
Is that a jab at me?
No, it's not a jab at you. It's a jab at a lot of people that write articles and want people to click on or listen to or things like that. You're a old school Star Wars fan that really doesn't keep up with a lot of the non-movie stuff and just been disappointed. So you moved on to Marvel. You're a heavier Marvel fan than you are a Star Wars fan. I don't think you're shitting on everything Star Wars. You just don't care.
Yeah, I just don't get a lot of what they're trying to do, because I think what they did in the past and what they started with, that's the magic. All right, well, why don't we get into our main segment, since I was away in good old Mexico, surviving, doing my own romancing of the stone. You put together a nice little main segment for us, and I don't know what it is.
Well, Bill, I didn't so much put together a main segment. While you were basking in Mexico, I was basking in the Jersey Shore. And yeah, and much like your first beach vacation this week, I had a day of nothing but rain on Saturday. So I had nothing but time to sit with my children and my wife and my dog. I edited the show, and I had lots of time to think about things, life, topics for the show, just my own way of getting creative, I guess you can say. So I was thinking, I did some listening back to the show too, and we oftentimes sit here and look back on the 80s with such hazy retrospective, and we always talk about the good things that came out of the 80s, and yeah, we'll shit on bad directorial movies and things like that every once and again, but very rarely are we actually getting into bad things from the 80s. And I had a pet peeve while sitting there, and I thought, I wonder what Bill's take is on this. Can you name something from the 80s that you either despised at the time, or it could have never existed and you'd be just okay with it? And I know that's broad, and I know I'm throwing this at you for the first time, but take your time and think about it.
Nope, everything was great back then.
Everything from the 80s was great.
I don't know. I'm a romantic for it. I loved everything about it. So I'm curious to see what you bring up here.
All right. While driving on the New Jersey Parkway, I saw, and this is a hot take, especially coming from where we live in the country and where I was vacationing this weekend. I saw a Bruce Springsteen for President bumper sticker. And I thought to myself, this guy has got to be the most overrated musical thing to ever come out of the 1980s. Agree or disagree?
It's a statement, man. That is a statement. Yeah, well, Philadelphia, so close to New Jersey. For some reason, New Jersey went big with Bruce Springsteen and then went big with Bon Jovi. And if you don't love either one of them two, you don't really live here. That's how it really is supposed to be.
That's why it's a hot take. I know.
Wow.
I know. I've caught shit for this a lot, but I can go further into it. I feel that Bruce Springsteen was really propped up to be the working class hero, the blue collar icon of the 1980s. I feel that he was co-opted politically, and they actually took an anti-war song as Born in the USA and really turned it and perverted it into something that it wasn't. It wasn't necessarily about yay, 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 America #1. It was really an anti-war song. And it was co-opted by the powers that be, maybe the media, and it became this anthem of the working class hero and proud to be an American. They basically turned Bruce Springsteen into Lee Greenwood.
Well, then by those remarks, I guess they turned Twisted Sister into champions for peace. I mean, I think the problem with that song is, and a lot of songs, even in the 80s, there's a message and the video doesn't really relay the message, or the masses don't accept the message. Every Breath You Take by the Police is about a stalker, and I hear it at weddings all the time like it's a romantic song to dance to. So is that what happened with this song?
But it's not just this song. I mean, I feel like it was his whole image. His whole image was this American blue worker thing, but as the middle class was declining, the powers that be used this to champion and celebrate the working class that they were destroying. I just have this whole problem with it. Maybe growing up middle class was my problem. I don't feel that Bruce Springsteen was the icon that he should have been. Now, I will say this. I've come to appreciate some of Bruce Springsteen's later songs. It's specifically Born in the USA, thinking back to the 80s, thinking back to being one of the biggest albums coming out of that time period. It doesn't sit well with me.
I do know that when he was first coming up, they wanted him to be like the next Bob Dylan. They thought he was that. And when he came out, he was winning people over like the next Bob Dylan. And he was doing that really without mass media pushing him. He was still a new artist. So he did win over a lot of people. Some of his early stuff is pretty awesome. I'm not one who's going to keep on listening to Bruce Springsteen. I've never really owned Bruce Springsteen albums, but when I hear some of them songs, I go, those are great songs and you deserve a place in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But I think I hear what you're saying. Like, it was so iconic when he came out with those, you saw his ass with a hanky hanging out of it. It was like you saw this pro-America stuff all through the 80s, and you always saw, with it, some image of him turning his head, looking at you and winking, or whatever he did, that smirk that he did in the video,
Yeah.
Is that your problem with it? Maybe it got a little too pushed out there by other entities. Maybe MTV's more to blame. Maybe whoever bought the commercial rights is to blame.
It was probably more the iconography of what the album. I think you might be onto something there. I will also say, very ironic that he was going to be the next Bob Dylan. Another problem I have with Bruce Springsteen, I guess some music listeners don't enjoy understanding the lyrics that the vocalist is saying.
A lot of Nirvana fans out there, yeah.
Yeah, I guess, but I could like Nirvana. Here's the other crazy thing. I liked Clarence Clemens. I like Steven Van Zandt. Max Weinberg, hell of a good steady drummer. Great jazz drummer. Just don't care for Bruce Springsteen as a frontman.
Poor Niels Lofgren gets skipped again. You can't even put him on the list of people you don't like.
I named the people I could remember, okay? Oh, man. I just felt like I was in this place that celebrates this person that I just don't get. So in many ways, I was in my own Mexico.
Well, I'm starting to wonder if it's a Berks County, PA thing, because my wife also has a disdain for Bruce Springsteen. And I didn't know where it came from.
What's her take on Bruce?
We'll have to ask her. She just doesn't like him. And to me, he's a lot like, the people who inspired him. He's not that much different than like Bob Dylan or like a Woody Guthrie, type. He's really just taking that thing and just putting it in the blender, and it's coming out with his characteristics. It's not that revolutionary of music.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. Here's the other thing, and I think I'll stop bashing on Bruce, because you either agree with me or you think I'm an asshole. Either way, I'm fine. To be thought of and to look at that iconography of you are that working class hero, you are that true blue Americana, blue collar guy. I feel someone we talked about as being a great guy in the past. I think Billy Joel did it better.
As a East Coast representative, it's interesting because they're from the same life, and they sound totally different.
Yeah.
Because Billy Joel's from New York.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not far from Bruce Springsteen, and music really had a sound.
He's from Long Island.
And music really had a sound in regions, especially on this area where we grew up.
And here's the other thing, and here's why I say that. Billy Joel had phases. He had his doo-wop phase. He had his singer-songwriter phase. He had his synthesizer, love you just the way you are phase. I mean, he had a lot of different phases. But like, I'd listen to Captain Jack and Scenes from an Italian Restaurant 10 times out of 10 over fucking Glory Days or 10th Avenue Freeze Out. Like, I just don't get Bruce Springsteen, I guess. And maybe that's just something I missed.
I do remember that video for Glory Days. Remember Courtney Cox? They pulled her up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was before anybody knew she was Courtney Cox. And I just remember thinking, hey, how come the girl from He-Man, the movie, is in the Bruce Springsteen video?
I remember thinking the same thing.
And going, how coincidental? How could it be that she's in both of these things? What a lucky break that he pulled up on stage. Oh, she's an actress. Oh, it's all fake.
She was at that nightclub and in Eternia? What are the chances?
Oh, man. That's why we love the 80s. We were allowed to be stupid back then. Nobody cared. Nobody yelled at us because we were all confused by what we were seeing on TV. We were all seeing shit we never saw before. We were all falling for all the tricks.
I'll get off my tirade here about Bruce and move it on from here. Here's another thought I had. While sitting inside on my rainy Saturday, I also had this thought, Bill. If you had to explain 80s music by playing one song, what is the quintessential song that you would play for that individual to really summarize the 80s music experience?
I got the answer right away. I think it's Thriller.
You think?
I think so, because that song was the culmination of everything that was going on in pop music in 1984 or whatever, 1985. And the weird thing was it added that horror element, which everybody just seemed to love. It's so out of brand for Michael Jackson to have this horror video, but I don't think people loved it for the horror video. They loved it for the beat. They loved it for the hook. They loved it for the bass. They loved it for the Michael Jackson character, which was unlike anything that was ever out there before. So to me, that is the quintessential 80s song.
Okay. I can't argue with you, but that wasn't my answer. I don't think there is one answer. So I have a first place and I have a close second that I think might give the feeling of 80s music. The first is Let's Get Physical by Olivia Newton-John.
Really?
Oh, man, that song just puts me in a place and it's just like, God damn. I don't know if it was the music video again or it was just I don't know. Just the poppiness, the synthesizerness, I don't know. But second place was Gloria.
Mm-hmm.
You know the song Gloria by Laura Branigan?
Interesting. Wow, those are fun picks, man.
Yeah, they're not good, but I feel like that's like the pop. Like, to your point, Thriller was like probably the best pop song of the 80s. But that wasn't all. That wasn't like the overall feeling of pop music in the 80s. Like, there was a lot of, I don't got to hear that again.
We started talking about my love for synthwave a few episodes ago. It's the stuff you just listed is synthwave completely. So you love synthwave.
Yeah.
You never lost your love for synthwave.
I suppose. The funny thing about synthwave, though, is that it really takes those elements and magnifies them by 10.
That's true. Yeah, it is kind of trying to show it with its ass out a little bit. Yeah, everything's juiced up.
Yeah.
I don't know. I still love it. I still listen to it every day, man. That and hair metal. I am legitimately lost in the 80s. And even sometimes I feel douchey saying that because I know it's trendy right now to be an 80s kid, but no, that's just what I love. I still get that high like you get from thinking about Olivia Newton-John in that video, but I get that same high listening to, Slash do a guitar solo in Paradise City or watching Back to the Future 2. Like everything that happened in the 80s for me was so much fun. There's a few dramas and things like that I didn't see, because I just didn't want to be sad. But there was so much sci-fi and fantasy and just new shit.
Yeah.
Think about the sitcoms that were out. Like, they were my family. I learned my life lessons from fucking Different Strokes and Silver Spoons and all of that stuff because, like many kids, in our age group, the TV raised us. And it's no wonder that all of those things are so important to us because we were basically fed that stuff by our parents. I don't know what was going on in the 80s where parents were so happy to just put kids in front of the TV, but we were all raised in front of the TV. And we were enthralled because it was a brand new time. There was so much new stuff coming out. Who knew how it could hurt us? Some of this stuff was weird. Remember Manimal? A guy turns into a
Manimal?
Yeah, guy turns into what? Like, we should be seeing that as a kid. That's scary. Now, X that times 10, 50, 100. The shows were so weird. And that changed us. We became a different generation growing up. The geekery in our age group is like a gift from God. I mean, we have so much great content to just love and adore. I guess the kids do now, but it feels different.
Yeah, it does. I feel like there were so many more options musically and cinematically in the 80s. I'm thinking about Olivia Newton-John. Oh, my third song would have been Take On Me by a-ha. Like, that was my other synthy.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
80s thing. But the fact that I'm thinking about these, and then you're bringing up Twisted Sister, and you're bringing up Slash and Appetite for Destruction with GNR, and like these were like worlds apart. And then there's Michael Jackson happening at the same time. Like, there were so many different like clicks of music happening simultaneously and on top of each other and adjacent to each other that like you had a lot more different things to choose from. And I feel like now you have like, Bruno Mars or Taylor Swift, or you can listen to, that Sheehan kid. What's his name?
Yeah, I can't.
Okay.
I don't know anything going on now. But you're totally right. You're like, you pop onto one station, you're listening to all this great Billy Ocean. You just turn it to the right a little bit. Now you got Sheena Easton and all kinds of stuff that sounds like that. Turn it to the right a little bit more. You get jam on it. You get the breakdancing music.
Yeah.
And it's just like so much fucking fun to go through these different kinds of genres. And they were all attractive to me. Now I go through, I'm like, country. Well, that sounds like I've heard this song a bazillion times. I go into something else and it's like just garbage rap. And I'm like, I don't even know what they're saying. I don't even hear any musicality in it. But for me, everything back in the day, and it's probably because we were young and impressionable, we picked it up and now it's ours. And now we remember it fondly. But I still think it's special. I think that whole generation is special because it's never happened like that before. Because the stimuluses are all different. This internet world we'll never understand. The kids will. Our kids will. But we'll never understand it, and they won't understand ours.
I just feel like there was a whole lot that happened in those 10 years from 1980 to 1990. And the good was great, you know? And yeah, there's some stuff in there you can forget about. And Bruce Springsteen might be one of mine. But I can appreciate musically now. I just think it's a bit overrated for what it is. That's all I'm saying about Bruce, to go back to that well. But I didn't have to love Bruce. I had so many other things to tune into and listen to and enjoy. And yeah, I feel like there's just not that option right now in present day to go back to that.
It was funny, speaking of Bruce, they all went through this one period where all the like rootsy rockers from Mick Jagger to David Bowie, all of a sudden in the mid 80s became like synthy, MTV ready, bands. And then all of a sudden you get like Elton John's I'm Still Standing, and then Billy Joel's got some upbeat stuff, and everything got synthy all of a sudden. And it's like, whoa, now Bruce Springsteen's got a song, Rod Stewart's got a song.
Nick's doing Dancing in the Streets
with David Bowie, and it's just like, wow, they all showed up to be on MTV, didn't they? It's like, oh, there's the money.
Yep. We didn't even talk about Van Halen and the impact they had. They were doing their own thing at the same time. It was ridiculous.
Oh, I love Van Halen. I could go on forever, but I know a lot about Van Halen. Because that's, again, that's what I wanted to be. That's what I thought it was to be a human being. To be the best human being in the world would be to be somebody as cool as Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah, man. So I guess my weekend, my duty to come up with a show, I was put in an 80s state of mind. Could have been what I put on the radio while driving down the Garden State Parkway, or I don't know what it was, but got me thinking about the 80s. And not everything was great, but you had a lot of options if you didn't like what the flavor of the day was.
I was listening to Spotify in Mexico. I download things on Spotify when I don't know if I'm going to have internet. And one of the playlists that I have came with Spotify, and it's called Discover Weekly.
Mm-hmm.
And another one is Release Radar. I don't know. I assume everybody has these in their Spotify. And I'm listening to the song. I'm going, oh, and all of a sudden I go, oh, that's a new Bruce Springsteen song for sure. I know and I look at it. It's John Cougar Mellencamp. He's still making music, put out a brand new song.
Coog.
And tell me it doesn't sound like Bruce Springsteen right now. They're all starting to sound exactly the same. We got our 3 chords, our voices are decaying, so we're all starting to sound the same. And it's like, oof, who's going to buy this stuff?
Yeah.
Good luck.
Bruce is getting real political here as of late with his new Nebraska album. I mean, I do enjoy it's a lot more singer-songwriter type stuff. Still banging that working class drum, still blue collar Bruce, but yeah, not as in your face or, dare I say, annoying as it was in the 1980s.
Yeah, he's like Howard Stern, the working man's voice. Well, Howard kind of has a $50 billion mansion out in, Florida. He hasn't seen a human being forever. And everybody he talks to are yes men. So yeah, he's very in touch with what's going on out there. Yeah, when you're that rich.
But the tying factor, he did get out of his house to interview Bruce Springsteen in person.
Oh, yeah, he did do that. And I don't know if you saw that interview, and it wasn't terrible. We've talked about our frustration with Howard's interview style. He always makes it about him. The questions ultimately will will roll around to him. But he does sometimes ask pretty good questions. And I like that interview. It wasn't like any kind of Emmy winner or anything like that, but people made it out to sound like it was the most incredible interview in the world. And it was not at all.
Yeah. Truth be told, I was going to listen to Ninja Sex Party, but I was afraid to do so with the kids in the car.
Good call.
So I did not get into that, but I will do a deep dive into Ninja Sex Party, which you introduced me to last week.
Oh, I listened to it the entire time in Mexico. They got a great song about him living at home. They got a great song about him having a car and like feeling like he's cool. Like I did in high school. I'm like, I got a truck, and I felt so fucking cool. So his song, he drives around with a car. He's like, I got a car. And it just feels like a badass. And they're all looking at him like, big fucking deal. You got a car. And that was me. All right, let's get into the news. I got a couple stories here that I thought were interesting. Here's one from Collider.com. Disney has removed a significant amount of content from its streaming platforms, Disney Plus and Hulu, ahead of their merger into a single streaming application. Among the shows removed was Willow, which had ended just 6 months prior. The show's writer, John Bickerstaff, expressed his frustration with Disney's decision on Twitter. Bickerstaff criticized the business practice of investing heavily into a show only to remove it from streaming libraries after a short period of time. He also suggested that this was a way to avoid paying residuals amidst the ongoing Writers Guild of America strike. Other popular shows removed by Disney include The Mysterious Benedict Society, The World According to Jeff Goldblum, Dollface. Do you know those? I kind of remember those. I remember seeing the ads for them.
I did enjoy The World According to Jeff Goldblum. That was a fun show. He's just such a weird guy. I could watch him talk about anything.
He was surging for a minute there. Then he kind of vanished on us.
Yeah.
Anyway, this follows a trend of massive cuts to streaming content as seen with Warner Brothers / Discovery's cuts last year.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
it's happening.
Well, we talked a little bit about this last week with the news story that they were going to merge together Hulu and Disney Plus, and how that was kind of tied together with cost-cutting measures and how the strike could be playing a role into all this.
So let me ask you, because I've actually been curious about this. Is it now going to be you go into Disney Plus, and as you see those tiles, you see Marvel, you see Discovery or whatever you see. Now you'll just see Hulu. So it's going to be a set of channels inside Disney Plus, and Hulu is one of them. Is that how they're going to do this?
I really don't know how it's going to play out, because with them saying they're going to merge the two of them together, I'm guessing it's going to be one app on the dashboard, whether it's branded Hulu or Disney Plus or what they're going to brand it. Let's just hope they didn't take a page out of fucking HBO and call it Max or something stupid. But it's going to be one or the other, but it's going to be one app for everything. It's going to be one-stop shopping. How you navigate inside that app, I don't know if anybody has any idea about that yet.
Yeah, I said it to Amy. I said, hey, they're merging Hulu into Disney Plus. She's like, they're their own universe. I'm like, well, now they're a fish inside the belly of Disney.
Well, it's going to be really interesting because I have, as I mentioned before, my live stream television is through Hulu Live, but I have my cable through them. I can't call it cable. I have my live stream through Hulu. I wonder how that's going to look on the Disney Plus side of things.
Yeah.
That news about Willow, they said that they were hitting a pause on the show. It was actually canceled. They didn't sign up for season 2. Now they're pulling season 1. I guess they're trying to just erase it from everybody's knowledge. But part of the story you read last week was talking about how Disney's now going to go back to using the Disney Vault, where things aren't available all the time forever in perpetuity. They take things off, make them maybe get a little bit more of a scarcity, maybe a little bit more of a following or a craving, and then they release it to hopefully draw more subscribers back. Remember last week's story was all about getting and retaining subscribers. I think, the story said that they lost 2 million subscribers recently over recent weeks. But what else just happened? Mandalorian season 3 just dropped. There's people out there that pick up these streaming services for the show they want to watch and then go by the wayside until the next season drops. My answer is don't take things off, put more things on that people want to watch.
Yeah, it seems like a weird move to take the Willow TV show that didn't do that well, put it into the vault, and then one day go, guess what? We're bringing it back, baby. The Willow TV show you didn't like. Yeah, but maybe it's not that. Maybe they're being a little tricky. So you know how, so. Yeah, like Netflix works out different deals in different countries. So you can always take a NordVPN, which you probably hear the ads for in every podcast. But you can put on NordVPN and set your location as, hey, I'm in Japan. And you're going to log into Netflix and your content selection is going to be different. So that's the way that a lot of people who love content can jump in and out of different countries and see different varieties of things that aren't available to them in, say, the United States. So maybe this vault thing is really just that bullshit.
It very well could be.
So they're saying, hey, we're taking something out of the vault to Japan, but it's a different thing that they're taking out of the vault for America. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, and then this story says here, if it's about residuals, if they take it off and nobody can stream it, then there's no chance they have to pay any kind of residual rights or service fees to the writers. So it's another way to dick over. It's another way how this whole new world of streaming versus airing or screening is different from anything we've ever had before. And nobody really knows how the rules work, hence the strike.
Well, here's another news item from Engadget.com. We were talking earlier about how everybody's just loving all of the Star Wars stuff. And those parks, those hotels, they'll never fail. Well, one of them sounds like it's doing pretty shitty. Disney has announced that it will close the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel less than 19 months after its opening. The hotel, which offered a highly immersive Star Wars experience at Walt Disney World in Florida, was often praised for its innovative and immersive entertainment, but also came with a high price tag, a 2-night stay starting at $4,800. That's $4,800, Scott, for 2 people and $6,000 for a group of 3 adults and 1 child. Despite the creative concept and high level of service, reports suggested that the hotel struggled with low demand, leading to occupancy rates as low as 25%. Disney didn't provide specific reasons for the closure, but indicated that they learned a lot from this boutique experience and plan to apply this knowledge to future endeavors. They also stated, fuck Bob Chapek. The hotel will close at the end of September 2023. So I remember the Galaxy's Edge thing. I don't even know what this is.
So I talked about this a little bit where I've seen it. I had no interest in it. As a diehard Star Wars fan, the fact that they thought this is what I wanted was insulting. I hated it. You went there. You had no windows. Like the windows were actually screens out into space. The whole story was that you were actually on a cruise on a intergalactic star cruiser, the Halcyon. And you were doing, Bill, you would fucking hate it. This is like what Amy would make you do for your birthday for fucking dinner theater. You have to go and you have to like fucking talk to this character and talk to that character. And am I going to be a rebel or am I going to be a fucking First Order? And this was all based in the new Star Wars world. Like Chewbacca came around, but other than that, there was like no classic content whatsoever. It's like role playing for 2 straight fucking days and there's no fucking escape.
I'd be putting bubble gum in Chewbacca's fur. Oh, I'd go crazy. I hate those things.
I know you do, but that's what this was but for the privilege, $4,800 for 2 people.
Yeah, they really mispriced that. Killed it. Make it reasonable. People would do it. Make it, unreasonable. People would rather spend their money on something else and just tell their kid, hey, you know what? We'll see a Wookiee walking around the park.
It's true. And here's the thing. I could see them losing the hotel aspect, losing the exclusivity aspect, and hopefully they'll reuse the building for something. It's right next to Galaxy's Edge. It has its own entryway into Galaxy's Edge, right next to where Kylo Ren's ship is. So it's prime real estate. If they just walk away from the hotel, great. If they walk away from the entire property and using it for anything, it's a goddamn crime. So it's not a big surprise that they closed. The big surprise or the big question everybody has is what comes next to replace it.
Well, I'm not so sure that the Little Mermaid universe is going to take off. From Fandom Wire. So they're talking about CGI being a real problem in that new Little Mermaid movie. And I didn't see any of those other Disney movies where I think Lion King, they're turning all their they're turning all their cartoons into live action. Yeah. And people seem to love it. People are really into it, it seems like.
People seem to have gotten over it. Like Lion King was a big one. Jon Favreau directed that one. Then you had like Aladdin came out. Aladdin did okay. But then they did like live action Pinocchio that was direct to streaming. Now they're doing Little Mermaid live action remake. I feel like people are over. You mentioned the Aristocats a while back. That's one they're going to redo. I feel like they're going too deep. They're going too far with it, and people are kind of over it.
Yeah, it said here, and the reason I marked it because it made me laugh. Despite praise for Halle Bailey's performance as Ariel, and we've heard about the controversy. I know we talked about it in the past, but I never knew her name. So when I read Halle Berry, I'm thinking it's Halle Berry, like the person that we've seen in movies forever.
This girl's name is Halle. It's Halle Bailey.
It's Halle Bailey. And I was so lost on how another actor had the same name as a current actor. And I was like, what a fucking ripoff. This new person comes up, takes the name and all the heat from Halle Berry. That used to piss me off when I thought about, there was a guy named Mark Wahlberg who was a game show host for a while. And, you know,
I'm
like, you can't have Marky Mark's heat. Can't steal that. Can't steal that. Michael B. Jordan. You can't. You get a new name. You can't be Michael Jordan. The B doesn't do enough.
Well, what if that's his real name?
Change it. It's Hollywood. It's Hollywood. No names are real in Hollywood.
All the ones you can't read on the news stories are real, and you bitch about them, tell them they should give some fake ones.
Randy Jackson. Remember him from American Idol?
Yeah.
No, it was Michael Jackson's brother. He came first. Randy, get another name. Be Phil. Phil Jackson. Wait, there's already a Phil Jackson.
There's a Phil Jackson. He was an ex-basketball coach for the Lakers.
Be Shlomo Jackson. I don't care. Just be something else. This is show business. Remember there was a kid on, what was that, Game of Thrones? I remember he was already doing the convention circuit. His name was Jack Gleason. I'm like, that's too close to Jackie Gleason. You got to go, kid. You can't use that name. It's like when you retire a number at a stadium for a football player.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't fucking do it. I knew a kid when I was growing up. It used to bother the fuck out of me. His name was Michael Jackson, and it was in the 80s. I was so mad. I was like, your name can't be Michael Jackson. There's already a Michael Jackson, and he's the biggest thing in the world. And this kid had to be Michael Jackson. There's probably a bazillion Michael Jacksons out there.
Looking back on it now, Bill, do you think that kid was happy that his name was Michael Jackson? His parents did that to him. My kid goes to school with a guy named R. Kelly. No, he doesn't. I just made that up. But still, same point, right?
Yeah, look, I don't know. We're not talking about him. We're talking about me and my feelings.
Right, you are, Bill.
Yeah. Let me read something from The Variety. Variety.com, not The Variety, you dumbass. The use of de-aging technology in Hollywood films has been criticized for not being perfected yet. And I thought that was interesting because we were just talking about 3 months ago, how amazing it looked in the Indiana Jones trailer.
Yeah.
But now it's getting criticized as being, once again, too fucking overused. And in this article, they're saying the problem is they're using the main actors and then putting on their CGI'd faces. But it looks out of sync because the main actor is running around like an old man with a young face. And it's barely just too damn distracting. So Variety decided to write an article about it saying, hey, let's not do this. This sucks. We don't need it. It's not working. I'm with you, The Variety.
I agree.
Here's one from the direct.com. The ongoing Writers Guild of America strike, or the WGA as they are most sexily called. Is that a word? Sexily?
Is now.
I just made up a brand new word. Put it in the fucking Webster dictionary. The strike is now impacting Marvel Studios productions, leading to the temporary halt of several upcoming Disney Plus shows. The strike started on May 2nd, 2023, with the WGA fighting for fair wages and additional benefits, especially concerning streaming projects. The Marvel show Daredevil Born Again was the first to halt production due to the strike, followed by Wonder Man, which I think we talked about, but I don't even remember Wonder Man. Also, pre-production for Blade was shut down earlier in the month. The strike is likely to affect other ongoing and upcoming Marvel projects like Agatha, Coven of Chaos, which I could care less about. That's a spinoff from WandaVision. Captain America, The New World Order. I'm not sure I'm still into Captain America after 10 years, but we'll see. Thunderbolts, I'm kind of looking forward to that. And Deadpool 3, potentially causing significant delays in the MCU. Deadpool 3, that's a bummer. However, Marvel Studios has other projects such as Ironheart and Echo ready that could be released during the delay. And I've actually heard in another article that Echo show that they're going to try to put out, right? Echo is a spinoff of that Hawkeye show.
Yeah.
I heard that they're saying that's unreleasable. Like it's
Really?
so poorly put together. And it's like one of the next things that's supposed to come up. But it's just a rumor. There we go. MCU is going to get slowed down whether they wanted to or not, but they did want to.
Yeah.
They wanted to slow down and kind of, regroup. So maybe this is good.
Maybe. Time will tell.
Here's another one from fandomwire.com, which I'm not sure is anything more than like a Hollywood clickbait site, but I like it.
I do too.
We should never take everything they say as truth until proven. Fans are demanding that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson apologize for allegedly damaging two franchises, the DC Extended Universe and the Fast and Furious franchise.
The Rock got bigger problems on his plate right now. He's being sued for kidnapping charges. $3 billion in kidnapping charges, I've read.
Okay, I didn't want to go into that because I didn't read it yet. Amy asked me about it when I came back from Mexico. I said, what? No, I'm just thinking about how I didn't get kidnapped.
Yeah.
So what's the deal there?
So there is this girl that was a wrestler, and the whole claim sounds fucking berserk. She named The Rock. She named WWE Wrestling. She named Vince McMahon. She named like 20 people that they conspired to distract her while Children and Youth Services can go and take her children from her.
Oh, okay. Because it didn't sound unlike a bunch of coworkers trying to get involved in a other coworkers' family affairs when they believed the other coworker was harming their child. Like, it didn't sound that bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if she was really bad to the kid, I could see The Rock calling Children and Youth and saying, hey, you better check out whoever this person is. And then seeing her turn around and go, hey, they were kidnapping. They were trying to take my kid away from me. Is that the story?
It kind of, but there's nothing wrong with calling Children and Youth. If like, I'm a mandated reporter. So if I suspect any abuse or hear of any abuse, I have to call Childline to report it. Like, that's part of my gig. This sounds like paranoid ramblings of a drug-addled person.
I think it's fascinating. This guy's career, because he's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then the other day I see a trailer for it was a cartoon, a Disney cartoon, Moana. You got kids, I don't. So I that stuff goes right past me. But now he's coming out and saying, we're doing a live action. But he's not even saying we're. He's more like, I'm doing a live action Moana.
Yeah.
And I'm bringing all of Hawaii to you. And it's a big pullback. And it's like, no, Disney's doing this. Why are you pretending that you're the one who's doing all of this? It's almost the same bullshit he did with Black Adam.
Yeah.
You're not that fucking important, dude. And now people are starting to turn on him. For anybody who's a Fast and Furious fan, spoilers, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Look, we're getting better. So there's apparently there's a Rock cameo at the end of that. So what I heard, I don't know if this is true yet. It's the world of rumors that they're taking Fast and Furious X. Dan's going to love this. Brother Dan, you're going to love this. Fucking cars. So they're taking Fast and Furious X and dividing that now into 3 movies.
Oh.
And because The Rock and Vin Diesel always had that feud, and they don't get along, but we thought The Rock wasn't going to be any part of this new all-star Fast X. Well, now it sounds like he is. And they're going to release him into the 3 stories at the end of the first one as the secret ending. So the same way that Henry Cavill came in as the secret ending for Black Adam, Rock's going to be the secret ending character for Fast X.
And then immediately get fired.
Everybody's just like, we hate this guy now. It's such a weird move.
Yeah.
I've never seen this guy's crashing and burning right in front of our eyes, but maybe not. Maybe people will love him. He'll bounce back. I don't get the Rock love.
I want to think he's a good guy, but I know we talked about him before. You went through his whole filmography. There's some clunkers in there, but yeah, I want to think he's a good guy.
All right, here's our last news story coming from ScreenCrush.com. Arnold Schwarzenegger reveals that the proposed sequel to the 1988 hit comedy Twins, titled Triplets, will not be happening. The original director, Ivan Reitman, Schwarzenegger, and Danny DeVito had long discussed creating a sequel, even considering Eddie Murphy and later Tracy Morgan for the role of the third triplet. However, the project never materialized. After Reitman's passing in February 2022, his son, filmmaker Jason Reitman, allegedly halted the project despite it having the necessary financing. Schwarzenegger blames Jason Reitman for the cancellation of the project, but mentions he's developing another movie with DeVito. But one of the funniest things here is when you click the article for the Screen Crush, the headline is, Arnold Schwarzenegger says the Twins sequel isn't happening because Jason Reitman fucked it up. I love the headline.
Wow.
So Schwarzenegger literally says, come on. He fucked it up.
Do it. I'm right here.
My friend's dumb kid fucked it up. He fucked it up, he said. Oh, I love it. I love
I
it.
have to give Jason Reitman credit. I mean, he's already riding the old man's coattails for Ghostbusters. I'm glad he's not just rehashing everything his father did.
Yeah, it says here, when his father passed away, Jason says, I never liked the idea. What a dick. I never liked the idea.
I don't know. I think it could have been funny having like, so they already had like the twins being funny because one's incredibly fit and one's Danny DeVito. Now you're going to bring in either Eddie Murphy or Tracy Morgan. Like, they bring in the whole race aspect of it. Like, that sounds funny to me.
Yeah, it could be.
It sounds like 80s funny. Like, you could do more racially charged things then, you know?
Right. Yeah, that may not play well now. I loved in that movie, Twins. Well, I can't really remember the exact way they put it, but like Danny DeVito standing next to Arnold Schwarzenegger, and they're like, "Oh, he was like the perfect twin. He was God's perfect human, and I'm the shit left over."
Yeah.
Oh man, I always empathize with Danny DeVito. I'm like, you know what? I also feel like the shit left over.
Dude, the stuff he does, I mean, the roles he's played, he's the most unsung actor that Hollywood's putting out there. The stuff he did with Oswald Cobblepot and the Penguin in Batman Returns, the stuff he's putting out now with Always Sunny, I mean, he is a fucking treasure.
I'm just really hurt that I said I feel like the shit left over, and you walked right past it.
Oh, is that what that was?
I was just fishing for a compliment. You just went right by it. You're like, yeah, I know, man. Yeah.
You said that's how you feel. That's how I can't change the way you feel. If you said I am the shit, I'd be like, no, Bill, you're not the shit left over. If you feel, I mean, you're entitled to your feelings. Use your words, man. Words have meaning.
I just wanted to let me pick you up, Buttercup.
Bill,
you mean something to me.
I know you had a tough time in Mexico, buddy. I know. Welcome back to the States. And you're amongst friends here. You're not the shit left over, Bill. Not at all.
No, not. All right. Well, how about we call it here and say that this was
this was
the
a show.
End of the episode.
I'll moving forward, I'll be less obtuse to your fishing attempts for compliments. Apologies.
No problem. I got a thick skin. I survived, a lot of other things in Mexico that you'll never hear about. Okay. Has nothing to do with donkeys or shows, but there's been a lot more leather filled on my hide, but I can't tell you about it. So please respect my privacy. Everybody, thank you very much for listening, and be sure to follow us at Too Much CGI or send us an email. We'd love to keep on reading that's one of my favorite parts, by the way, when I hear the feedback and people are talking about the shit they hear. I love reading that. So, you can send that stuff to us through the website. Scott, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, keep the I hate Scott because he hates Bruce Springsteen comments to a minimum. That's all I can ask for. I know, I hear it all the time. I hear it from coworkers. I hear it from people that are huge Springsteen fans. Why, I don't know, but keep them to a minimum. Let's try to mix up the content of the feedback. I'd appreciate that. That's all I have to say. So thanks for listening, and hope to see you next time.